Hello, everybody. My name is Benny, and welcome to The Fool's Apprentice. Oh my God, it's been a long week, a super long day. I usually have my videos done either the day before or the morning of hashtag Saturdays. Hashtag Saturdays. But today, this week, it's been a hard week. But today was a special day because one of my best friends graduated from college, and today was all about her. And so I just got home a little while ago. It is 7:10 in the evening, but I'm getting this hashtag out on Saturday because it's hashtag Saturdays. Had a wonderful day. Got to make it all about my friend. What a beautiful day she had. And I'm just really, really grateful I got to be a part of it. But today we are doing 13 real tarot questions. This came out a while ago, and I like the questions. That's why I'm looking to my left. And I thought we'd go by them. We'd go We'd go by them. We would. Okay, we'll do it this way. We will answer them one at a time. 1 to 13. All right, see you in a second. I'm going to flip the camera over. And I'm back. So, I thought while I answered these questions, instead of just looking at me answer the questions, we would go over one of the decks that I have. It's a deck that I'm using this month in December. It's a deck that I held on to on my Amazon cart for a while, and then one day I just said, you know what, I want the deck. And I looked at it quite a bit. I would go back to it, I'd watch videos, and the more I saw it, the more I really liked it. And so I'm just going to flip through the cards. They're not in order because I've been using it. But I thought, instead of just looking at me, let's look at some beautiful cards. All right, so here we go. Beautiful box, nothing special on the inside, but it's actually a really, really good box. It's textured feeling. Comes with a nice little guidebook. Really nice. And pretty blue. Interesting. It's one of the things that I find is the cards, don't really fit perfectly, but it's because they got the book. But I will tell you, I would rather have loose cards in a box than really tiny print that I can't read. So I'm really grateful for that. Okay, love the backs. Aren't those backs beautiful? So let's get to it. So I didn't necessarily, one of the things that I like to do when I answer these questions is I don't really like to sit there and answer the questions. I'm trying to fix this light so it's not messing with here we go, that looks better. One of the things that I don't really like to do is to sit with the questions for too long, because then it just feels like a script when I'm reading the question and then giving you an answer. The answer doesn't feel very organic or very natural. And I really like to have kind of this casual conversation with everybody. And so we'll see how I end up formulating my answers and how they come out, because I just really want to be me when I answer these questions. So the first question is, what is tarot to you? And I think that's a really in-depth question, because it really has you critically think about, how you use the cards, why you use the cards, what drew you to the cards. And for me, tarot is a couple of things. I think first and foremost, tarot is a window to who I am and who I want to become. Tarot allows me to investigate, who I am in the present moment. And so tarot is a tool that I get to use to help me recognize who I am, the best qualities of who I am, areas of my character that need to be developed. It allows me to develop a really good and deeper relationship with myself. And it really helps me to grow as a person. So this is a tool, like anything I use in my life, to help me grow as a human being, which could be anything like journaling, seeing a therapist, eating well, going to the gym, anything that allows me to take care of me. And so this tool, which is the tarot, is something that helps me become the person I want to be tomorrow by working on it today. So that's question number one. Now, do you read for yourself, others? And I'd say 98% of all the readings that I do is for myself. I get up in the mornings, maybe in the afternoons, whenever. I usually read in the morning. That's when I usually read for myself. And it's changed in the last year. Before, I initially started with one card readings, and I found that very boring really quickly. So then I went to 3 card readings, and that worked for me. And most of my time has been with 3 card readings. But just recently, in the last, I'd say, month, I've moved to 5 cards. And I do not usually read for other people. However, I have started to try to read for other people. And I will tell you that I find it uncomfortable to do so because I don't feel I have a real mastery of the cards, and I still have to use my book. But when I read for somebody else, I make it very clear that I'm not an expert, that this is something I do for practice, that I will be using the book. So there aren't these lofty expectations of me as a tarot reader. I also talk to people about what I think, how tarot works for me, and the things that tarot does not do, which is a question I will be answering in a little bit. So most of the time I read for me. Sometimes, not often, I read for others. I want to get to a place soon where I can go and just sit somewhere and just read for people, because I do believe that more practice I get, the better I'm going to become. And that's really the only way it's going to happen, I think. Question number 3. With what frequency do you read for yourself? When I initially started, I was literally reading every single morning for myself. It was part of my spiritual practice. And most times, it really helps set my day. And I got to a place where if I didn't read for myself that morning, it felt like something was off. And more recently, I've not really been reading as much as I usually do, which I find bothersome. All I have to do is wake up a little bit earlier and it won't be a problem. But I started going to the gym, guys, and that has been a challenge. So right now I'm reading about 3 to 4 times a week, which needs to change. I really need to up my game if I'm going to continue to improve in reading the tarot for myself. And it says, number 5, what do you typically consult tarot for? And to be honest, I mostly consult on how I can become a better version of myself. So I will ask questions like, what can I focus on today that will make me of service to my colleagues? Or how can I incorporate gratitude throughout the day? Something like, how can I acknowledge the good work that I do? So it's really about growth. But recently, I have really been working on developing a much more rich, deeper relationship with my spirituality. So currently this month, what I'm doing is I've picked 4 people who inspire me spiritually. And I pick a person and I find a quote of theirs that I like. And I develop or create a spread in regards to that quote. And then I meditate on that and I write on that quote and what the cards say for the week. So I have also used the cards to help me when there is an event that is going to happen that I'm feeling either stressed, nervous, or anxious about. For example, I had this big meeting and it was stressing me out because I had an employee that I needed to have a conversation with that was going to become uncomfortable because of the fact that this employee could become volatile. And so I asked the cards, what is the number one thing that I need to focus on during this meeting? What do I need to be conscious about? And the cards basically told me what I needed to do is listen and choose my words wisely and be concise. And so I was like, okay. So the meeting was going to start. Before I opened the door to walk into the room, I settled myself. I reflected on what the cards had read. Okay, Benny, stay calm, listen, and when you respond, just be concise and be very clear of the message that you want to get across. And it served me very, very well. I was really, really happy with the outcome. It was still very, very tense, but having that structure and how I was supposed to work within that meeting really did help me quite a bit. And so I will use the tarot to help me kind of filter what needs to happen on my end. Take ownership on what I do and not really focus on everybody else. And so those are the kinds of things that I will actually consult the tarot for. Now, how do I clarify? Number 6, how do you classify yourself as a reader? Figuratively, literally, by the book, experimental. And I'm still in just past my first year, probably a year and a half maybe. And I really don't classify myself in any way as of yet. What I will say is that I do read the book and I interpret what the book is telling me. And I also use my intuition and I trust what comes up. So if I have 3 cards out, right? So here they are. 1, 2, 3. I have my question. I tend to read left to right. However, if I use an oracle card, I'll put it in the middle, and that'll be the overarching theme. Then I read left to right. I will read card 1, I will read card 2, and I will read card 3. Then I let it sit, and then I allow it to kind of speak to me. I relate what I read in the book to my question. Relate it to the question. Read it, relate it to the question. And I kind of allow that message that I need to hear to kind of form itself. The only time that kind of changes is if I have a spread that requires me to read it from left to right. So the cards really do speak to me. And I know that they speak to me based on what comes up and the message that is very clear in my mind. I mean, when I hear something, it is clear. There are times when I'm reading and nothing's coming up. So I've learned in those moments that I just sit with it. I look at the cards and I sit with it. Nothing comes up, I sit with it. I don't do anything. I've already read. Very rarely will I go back to the book, but I have. But mostly I just sit with it. And I try not to add a lot of pressure. And I'm learning that if I don't try to force it, the right message comes up. And I sit and I look at the cards. I might play with them. I might even pick them up. And I just look at them. I just try to figure it out. And then all of a sudden, a message will come up. And as soon as I get a starting point, it all seems to fall into place. So I am by the book with a lot of intuition. and I just I just let it take its course. So, but I really don't have a classification of what kind of reader I am. And I actually found this question very interesting because I didn't realize that you could be a certain type of classified reader, like a literal reader or a figurative. And um, I want to be a more intuitive reader with a very strong knowledge base of the cards. That's really what I would like to become. All right. So, number 7, what type of questions do you ask tarot? I kind of went over that. I ask questions that are very introspective, that, you know what? I think number 4, what type of readings do you do compared to number 7, what types of questions do you ask? I think I kind of bled those together with the first one. So, what type of readings do I do? Number 4, well, I do introspective readings. That's what I do. The type of questions I ask are questions that help me become hopefully a better person. That's really what I'm trying to do. I use this as a tool to be a better human being because that's my goal. I want to become the best version of myself that I can possibly be. So I guess I kind of answered number 7 through number 4. So okay, so number 8. What questions do you never ask tarot? And these, for me, are ethical questions and moral questions I would never ask. I don't ask questions about mental health. The reason being is, okay, let me rephrase that. I might ask questions about me, about certain things, but normally I won't. So I won't ask questions about mental health, especially for anybody else, because the worst thing that can happen is re-traumatizing somebody that already has trauma. I think a trained professional who has a clinical background, who has the education and experience with mental health should be the only people that should be using tarot for that. And yes, you actually can use the tarot in therapy and working with somebody who needs assistance with their mental health. A trained person can use the tarot for that. But I think it has to be somebody who's trained. I wouldn't necessarily go to somebody who knows something about medication to get a prescription. It's too dangerous. Things I wouldn't ask about anything medical. I'm not a medical person. I am not a nurse. I am not a doctor. I'm not a surgeon. Nothing. Those are the kinds of questions that I think are off limits. I just think morally and ethically, for me, it's not something that I think is safe for me or that other person. I don't ask questions that require me to predict the future. For me, I do not think that the cards predict the future. I think what the cards do is they provide you a guiding path regarding the future. It preps you, it makes you think critically, it makes you look at different angles of a situation. It gets you to ask questions, critical questions to yourself about what your options are when something comes up and what you could do. That's how, those are the questions I generally will not do. Mental health, medical, future questions. I don't do that. And number 9, who do you think you're engaging when you read the tarot? I find that to be a very, very interesting question. I think the person or the thing that I'm engaging is something out in the universe that I'm incapable of labeling. I believe there is something much greater than me out there somewhere for whatever it looks like. But I don't think I have the knowledge or words to describe what it is because it is so large and so vast. And because it is such a mystery, Um, how can I even describe it? I could probably describe what it's not, but not what it is. I am also engaging with myself. In fact, I think it is probably one of the most important parts about this is my ability to look at myself through the cards, look at my intentions through the cards, look at my desires, my wants, with the messages that come up with the cards. I think that the tarot really allows me to look at a mirror that shows my true self, all parts of it. So, number 10, what knowledge do you apply to tarot? Numerology, religion, psychology, mythology, astrology, etc. Um, right now, the knowledge that I'm applying are a couple of things. Some psychology um, in regards to increasing mood, you know, in changing perspective, in challenging my perspectives on things, cognitive distortions. I'm also applying, the general meanings of the cards. I hope to be able to use numerology. I am applying some religion and spirituality. Like I had mentioned earlier, I have 4 people that I had picked who I find spiritually inspiring, which are Pema Chodron, the first American Buddhist nun, Mother Teresa, the Buddha, and Jesus Christ. They all have one quote that I'm working on this month. And so spirituality and religion are some of the things that I'm actually using to help me with the tarot. Where else in your life, number 11, where else in your life do you witness tarot? And really, if I'm being mindful and seeing where the tarot is, let me phrase that, I could really see the tarot anywhere. Like at work, when I'm being mentored with somebody, it shows up. When I'm working, or actually when I'm dealing with some personal challenges of my own, or when I see somebody else struggle with, their life, it shows up. This comes up when I see somebody who's isolating or who is like staying to themselves. I can see, let's see, what else do I see? Oh, here, seeing how things go round and round, literally in the world. There's so much that is good and so much that's not so good. I see this, I'm actually seeing this right now with a friend of mine who really, really needs to take care of themselves, and they're actually doing it, and they're resting a lot. So you can really see this anywhere. But for me right now, it has to be kind of a conscious practice to be able to see it. And so I'm thinking that would actually be a really, really good practice for me to do, is to see one thing throughout the day where I can apply one of the cards. And that might actually help me kind of see some other nuances of how the cards can apply in everyday life and actually help me with, like, actually, I could take a card. Let's say I take the Two of Wands. Let's say I shuffle the cards and I pull the Two of Wands. The challenge could be, where do I see the Two of Wands today? And just keep that in my mind. And when I see it, go, oh, there's the Two of Wands. That actually might be a really good practice with the cards that I still need to learn. Number 12. Have you experienced where the tarot has predicted the future? How do you feel? Well, to be honest, like I said, it's not something that I would look for. It is not something that I have ever really seen. It's not something that I would ever practice in trying to predict the future. To be honest, I don't know if the tarot can really do that. I mean, can the tarot predict the future? I'm not going to say that it can't, but I'm going to say that as of right now, I don't believe it. I don't believe it can. I do know that there are people that really believe it can, and for them, it is very real, and they've had experiences that are real for them. But for me, as of today, right now, I don't think it does. I don't think it's something I ever want to do, but it is something that I'm open to because you can't really have absolutes with certain things. And also because there are people out there who said that the cards have been able to predict the future for them. And who am I to deny their personal experience, right? Like, I can't. So, for me, that's my stance. And finally, number 13. If you have a magical practice, how does tarot fit into it? I do not have a magical practice. But I do believe that I live a very miraculous life. And in that, I could see how that my practice alone is a magical practice. I believe that these cards create situations in which events and decisions that I make that lead to these events feel magical, feel miraculous, and allow me to live a life I did not think was possible for me. And yeah, isn't this a beautiful deck? So these are my 13 questions. Let me flip the camera over and I'll have some parting words. Okay, bye. Okay, guys. I will tell you that I'm tired. And as I was listening to myself speak, I'm like, wow, no energy. You sound really boring. So if it sounded very lethargic and like I wasn't interested, that's not the case. It's 7 o'clock at night, or actually, what time is it now? It's 7:40 something at night. And I'm just super tired, but I wanted to make sure that I kept my word and I had hashtag Saturday out. So I'd be interested to hear there. I know there's a couple of things that people probably weren't really happy with. I suspect the one that people are going to be really that I might get challenged by is this idea that tarot can't predict the future. But remember, guys, that's my own personal view. It's my own personal experience. I'm not here to convince anybody one way or another. You know, you have your own lived experience. I'm not here to dim your light in any way. This is just my own personal experience, my own perspective. I also know that people probably will have opinions and feelings about this idea of things I never would ask, which is mental health, medical questions, and questions about the future, which is like the last moment. For me, I'm sorry, but I can't do that. Mental health, there's just the risk of re-traumatizing someone or even myself is just it's not a risk I'm willing to take. Medical questions, I am not trained professionally when it comes to medicine. The last thing I want is someone to make a decision based on a reading that I made that is contradictory to what their medical provider would want or would suggest, and then making a decision that actually creates more harm than good. And so that's my opinion. Okay, guys. All right, enough with what do you call it? What do you call that? This a disclaimer. That's my disclaimer. All right. Until next Saturday, guys. Y'all have a good day or a good night.